And we're starting with the Prime Minister. David Cameron has denied our local councils are being unfairly treated when it comes to government funding. He also wouldn't commit to sending one of his senior ministers to Liverpool to look at the city's books. I asked him why his government was cutting the money to the places which need it most.
Well, I don't accept that. I think look, of course, we're having to make difficult funding decisions. We've still got a very big budget deficit. We're clearing up the mess that we were left, and public services, we're having to deliver more for less, and everyone's having to find efficiencies. But, I mean...
But not everybody the same, Mr Cameron.
Well,
the cut per head in Liverpool is £252.45. In West Oxfordshire, your area, the cut is £34.33.
Well, let me give you the figures, because I've got
those are the
right
figures
in front. No, okay, right. Well, the spending per dwelling in Liverpool will be, in 2014-15, £2,595. That's the spending that's done for every household in Liverpool.
Because we have a high deprivation,
yes,
very high deprivation,
the
deprivation of 5 compared to 317 in your area.
All right. I accept that. Right, the spending for West Oxfordshire, where I represent, is £1,874 per dwelling. So, no, I think it's right there is a difference, and there is a difference, as you can see, of over £700 per household between what is spent in Liverpool and what is spent in West Oxfordshire.
For very good reasons.
Yes, absolutely, but let's be clear, that is a £700 per household difference. Now, let's address the fact, is Liverpool being unfairly treated this year? I don't believe it is. The spending power that you have in Liverpool, which is a combination of your council tax, your grant, and the money you get from business rates, that is being reduced by 1.3% in 2013. That is absolutely the same as the English average reduction, which is 1.3%. So I don't accept that Liverpool is being treated
Well, we're actually
unfairly.
losing 5.5%, 31 million over the next 2 years we're losing.
Well, you're losing 1.3% in 2013. That's the year that we are in this year. Those are the figures.
Well,
So,
we're looking
and
at
as I say, it's £700 per household, more than is spent in my constituency. I think that is fair. Now, let's look at what Liverpool is choosing to do with this. The fact is that actually Liverpool is adding to its reserves while making these complaints rather than drawing on its reserves, and there's still £6 million of uncollected council tax. So I don't accept.
That's because
that
we actually go right back to poll tax. Other people don't do that. We're actually going right the way back, whereas we're not writing anything off. That's the only reason there's a large amount of non-collected council tax.
Well, still, it is a large amount of money, but it is worth asking why it's necessary to add to reserves if, as the Liverpool City Councillors are saying, there's funding so unfair. Why are they choosing to add to reserves this year rather than draw on those reserves?
Well, as you know, those reserves, I don't know the detail of them, but very often it's schools and other organisations which the council is holding the reserves for other people rather than being its own reserves.
Yeah, of course, but they're being added to rather than being used. But anyway, so I don't accept, I just don't want to accept that for any, because this is often what you would put to me in an interview, that somehow Liverpool is being treated unfairly. It isn't being treated unfairly, and I've given you the figures to prove that.
All right, well, we asked our Mayor, Joe Anderson, who was repeatedly called, by the way, for your colleague Eric Pickles to come and look at these books himself, and we asked him what he would ask you, and he said this.
Prime Minister, we help around 14,000 elderly and disabled people at the moment in our city through our adult social care department, and demand for that support and care is rising. Liverpool's 56% funding cut from your government means that we will have half as much money as we used to, which means for us and for those people demanding that service that we'll only be able to help around 9,000 instead of the 14,000 people that we normally help. How would you like me to explain that to the people of our city? Finally, Prime Minister, we've made a request to you and to your Community Secretary, Eric Pickles, to visit Liverpool to see whether we are scaremongering or creating political mischief, as it's been suggested by him. We would welcome him, you, or anybody else to see the finances of our city firsthand in an open and transparent way, because we're not lying about it, we're just asking for fairness.
Prime Minister, can I pick you up on that very, very point? Will Eric Pickles come up here and have a look at the books and tell us how to do it better? Because he obviously thinks we can.
Well, look, I visit Liverpool regularly, so does
Yeah, but you don't
Eric
look at the
Pickles.
council books. Eric Pickles
Well,
doesn't
I'm
visit
looking
us
at, I've
regularly.
got the council books in front of me right now, and I can tell you that the spending this year by Liverpool City Council is 602.7 million. That is 21.7 million pounds higher than the spend last year, 2012-2013. Now, I'm sorry to bang on about these figures, but you got me on this programme, you are asking me about figures, you're saying Liverpool's unfairly funded, and I want to give you the statistics so
Right.
you can see that that's absolutely not the case. So that is, of course, everyone have to make difficult decisions. Every organisation is having to provide more for less.
Some,
The
and my
police are
point
doing
about
a
Whitney
fantastic
is some
job.
more than less. Some more than less. We're not all in it together, you know.
Well, we are in it together
Come
because
on.
my constituents in West Oxfordshire get £700 spending less per household than people in Liverpool. I happen to
Your
think that is right.
deprivation level
I'm
is
proud- yes, absolutely.
317 compared
Yes.
to ours, which is 5, or Knowsley, which is 12.
No, I'm proud to be Prime Minister of a country that generously supports areas that have greater needs. And I think it's right my constituents get £700 less than people in Liverpool. But nonetheless, it is important to make that point so people can see just how fairly we do manage things and how we are all in it together and how Liverpool does get extra provision compared to the average.
What this programme is basically a phone-in normally. We get call after call after call saying you and your cabinet are just so out of touch. It's untrue. You need to come up here and spend a week up here, work at a food bank, find out what's really, really going on at grassroots level, and then you'll understand why we feel, perhaps, that we're being treated unfairly.
Well, I think one of the reasons people feel they're being treated unfairly is they hear reported on programmes like yours, day after day, week after week, sets of figures that aren't accurate or right. And that's why I've spent so much time on your programme giving you the accurate figures. Now, of course, the needs are great, and I do understand that. We're recovering from a very deep and difficult recession. We're recovering from one of the biggest cuts in GDP that this country has had for decades, costing the typical family £3,000 each. And it takes time, but the truth is today our economy is growing. There are over 1.2 million more people in work than when I first became Prime Minister. In the northwest of the country, unemployment has fallen since the election. More people have got jobs, more businesses are starting. Things are getting better. It's taking time. Of course it takes time after such a deep recession, but I don't think we help ourselves by saying that's not the case.
But what you just said, honestly, people up here just won't believe it. It may be true in London. There's no recession going on in London, but come up here and it's a very different story. That picture you draw is not the picture people see up here.
Well, let me just give you the facts. In the northwest of the country, there are 37,000 more people employed today
On what
than
kind
there
of
were
a
3
job,
years
Prime
ago.
Minister? What sort of a job?
A mixture of jobs, but
Yes,
the
absolutely.
majority are full-time jobs rather than part-time jobs. Private sector employment has grown 49,000 since 2010. There are 40,000 fewer people claiming unemployment benefit. We are making progress. Now, of course you can argue it needs to go faster. Of course you can argue, and I would agree, we've got to take more people out of poverty. We've got to help more young people to get on. But we are funding the apprenticeships that are going to make the big difference to so many young people's lives, and we'll continue to do so.
As Prime Minister, I talked to you just before the programme went on air.